Hello, everyone. Today we're going to step into a quiet night that taught you something unexpected. The power went out. Not just outside, but inside you too. You stumbled through the dark, reaching for a switch you knew wouldn't work. Your home, usually so warm, felt cold and unfamiliar. Outside, the rain whispered like a secret, tap, 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 against your windows. And then you found the candle. With a strike of a match, a tiny flame sprung to life, small, flickering, yet instantly powerful. It chased the darkness back to the corners of the room. You stared, hypnotized. That single light was enough. Enough to breathe again. Enough to remember that darkness has no power where light exists, even if it's a tiny one. Prayer is the act of humility and commitment that allows God's light to shine through our lives. It's not loud, it's not always pretty, but it's real. And before we get too cozy, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. Also, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city and local time in the comments below. Take a deep breath, relax your body. You can turn on a fan for a little white noise, like the room is breathing with you. Now, let's listen to today's story. The darkness taught you something. Light doesn't need to be loud, it just needs to exist. And the same goes for faith. Your belief, even in your most fractured moments, still shines. During World War II, when Hiroshima was devastated by the atomic bomb, one chapel remained standing while the rest of the city burned. People huddled inside, praying. They didn't know they were a miracle, but they were. There were no bells left to ring, just breaths, just tears, just faith. There's a little girl in a refugee camp who lights a lantern each night with salvaged oil. She whispers, "If I light it, maybe someone will find me." Her faith is a lantern too. She doesn't need to be told she's brave. She's just waiting to be found, by God, by hope, by us. Matthew 5:14 says, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." You may feel small, unimportant, overlooked. But a city on a hill, yes, even you, can't be hidden forever, even if you try. Light has a way of escaping through the cracks. Your mother, who woke at 4 a.m. to cook for you, never asked for praise. But she was the sun before sunrise. Her love was light, her sacrifice, a flame. Her hands held stories. Her prayers held your name. She glowed and you didn't even notice, until she was gone. In 2021, an odd sleeping illness plagued a village in Kazakhstan. People collapsed randomly into unconsciousness. Scientists were stumped. Until a local priest started daily prayers at dawn. Within months, the incidents ceased. Was it coincidence or faith? Light isn't always measured in watts. Sometimes it's measured in whispers. You remember a homeless man who shielded a stray cat from the rain with his coat. He didn't notice you watching, but you did, and his small act burned a memory into your soul. You didn't just see compassion, you saw light, and maybe you were never the same. And so tell me, if a single flame can hold back the dark, if a whispered prayer can change a town, if a woman's sacrifice can echo in your bones, what could your life be capable of? The waiting room smelled like plastic and disinfectant. You held a styrofoam cup of warm coffee that tasted like desperation. Someone you loved was behind a door. Unseen, uncertain, you looked around. People were sleeping on their hands. Some stared at walls. One man hadn't moved in hours. An older woman sat next to you. Her hand trembled, but her eyes, they glowed. "Are you okay?" she asked. You wanted to lie. Instead, you said, "I don't know." She nodded. Sometimes light only shows up when we're broken enough to notice. Her words stayed with you long after the door opened and the news came. Good or bad, it didn't erase her presence, it magnified it. In a field hospital in 1863 during the Battle of Gettysburg, nurses used lanterns to identify the wounded throughout the night. They were known as the angels of the battlefield. Their lights guided the dying to mercy, the living to hope. Their feet were sore, their voices raspy, but they kept moving. Because light doesn't complain, it just shines. A missionary in the Amazon shared how she used a cracked phone screen to light the way for a village in floodwaters. It wasn't much. It flickered, it glitched, but it saved lives. And in that moment, you understood. Your presence mattered. Your words mattered. The older woman held your hand before she left. She whispered, "You're stronger than you think, not because you're never afraid, but because you keep showing up in the dark." And that right there is what it means to be a light. You arrived in a hilltop city built of stone and memory, cobblestones underfoot, church bells ringing in the distance, a place older than your grandparents' prayers. Light fell on the streets like blessings. You entered a chapel with flickering candles and saw a young man praying with his head in his hands. Beside him, an elderly monk swept the floor. No words, just rhythm. Sweep, pause, pray, sweep. In 303 AD, Christians in Rome hid in catacombs, lighting torches in tunnels to worship without persecution. Their faith survived in whispers and wax. They sang where nobody could hear, except heaven. In that city on a hill, you lit a candle too, and thought, maybe this flame will find someone. A stranger sat beside you and said, "I don't know why, but I felt drawn here." "So did I," you said. Sometimes light isn't something you give, it's something you share. A teenage girl in Iran risked prison to smuggle Bibles. Why? "Because the word is light," she said, "and my people are in the dark." Do you think God ever gets lonely when we forget to let our light shine? In that evening, the city held a festival. People set lanterns on balconies. Some said it was tradition. Others said it was prayer. Either way, the night glowed. Even an ancient city can still shine, and so can you. It was one of those weeks. Everything felt heavy. Your prayers bounced off the ceiling. You questioned if your light had gone out. You sat in your car at night, radio off, windows up, silence. A moment of nothingness. Then, a streetlight flickered on above you, dim but present. In 1939, British radio broadcasts opened with the words, "This is London." Even during air raids, that line reassured people, "We're still here." Your light isn't about brightness, it's about presence. A friend texted, "I don't know why, but I felt like I should check in." You cried. You let them see the flame dimmed. They didn't run. They stayed. A woman once saw a stranger sobbing on a bench. She sat beside him for an hour without a word. When he stood to leave, he said, "You saved me." Sometimes being light means being there. And sometimes your light flickers so that others remember to guard the flame. Your doubt is not darkness. It's just a cloud. The Bible doesn't ask you to be a firework. Just a lamp that never leaves the windowsill. Just a glow that says, you're not alone. You volunteered, maybe out of guilt, maybe out of hope. It was a shelter, or a school, or a church basement. Somewhere people needed warmth. A kid asked you, "Are you an angel?" You laughed. "No," you said, "just a person." But you glowed when you walked in. Kids see things we forget to believe. In 1961, a young man named James Meredith became the first black student at the University of Mississippi. He faced riots, death threats, hate, but he said, "My faith is stronger than their fear." His light burned through history. A woman in the Philippines turned her entire home into a free library. "No locks, no fees. God lit this flame in me," she said. "I'm just sharing it." So whose life are you lighting up without even knowing? You're not here to fix the whole world. You're here to be the flame that helps someone find their way back to God. Wind down. Conclusion. 300 words. Slow down. Exhale. Let your shoulders drop. Let your hands rest. Listen. Your light was never meant to burn you out. It was meant to glow gently, in service, in love, in stillness. You're not a hero in someone else's story. You're a steady presence, a lamp in the window, a friend in the waiting room, a flame in the storm. The world may never applaud your faithfulness, but heaven sees. And on those nights you wonder if you've done enough, remember, you were present, you were kind, you kept praying even when you doubted. And the city on the hill, it's still shining. Some nights the darkness doesn't just surround you, it whispers to you. It tells you that you're too tired, too broken, too ordinary, that your light, whatever's left of it, isn't enough. But darkness is a liar, and even a single flame knows that. A young girl in Colombia used to sit beside a street vendor who sold candles. She couldn't afford school, but each night she'd listen to passersby, mimic their words, and teach herself to read by candlelight. Years later, she became a teacher. She returned to that same street and bought every candle on the cart. "These saved me," she said. "Now I'll light the way for others." What you think is small may be somebody's survival. In a remote mountain town, a retired mechanic fixed old bikes for free. Kids would line up, laughing, calling him the Light Man. He never preached, never prayed out loud, but every tire he patched said, "You're worth fixing." And isn't that what light does? It restores. It reveals value in what others overlook. There was a young woman in China who wrote encouraging notes on sticky paper and left them on train seats. "You matter. Don't give up. The world needs your kindness." She never signed her name, but one day she found a note left for her. "Your light found me. Thank you." Light has a way of returning to the one who gives it. So when you feel empty, exhausted, invisible, remember, light isn't always bright. Sometimes it's just there. In a hospice room, a nurse holds the hand of a stranger in their final hours. She doesn't say much. She just sits. A warm presence in a cold moment. That too is light. A pastor in Ukraine kept singing psalms in the underground church, even as bombs fell above. "We sing," he said, "so the darkness knows we're still alive." Light isn't silent. It speaks, it sings, it stands. And you, right now, listening to this, you are still standing. That matters. Your light might be shaky, but it's still a light. Even if your prayers sound like whispers, even if your faith isn't as loud as it used to be, even if you've lost people, places, peace, you haven't lost your light. It's still in you. God never blew it out. The final moments, the power of being present. A woman once lit a candle in the window every night for her husband, a soldier missing in action. For years, she never missed a night. When asked why, she said, "Because if he ever comes back, I want him to know he was never forgotten." That is the power of light. It's a memory, a promise, a love that waits. When your light feels invisible, remember, light isn't. You don't need to climb a mountain or stand on a stage to be the light of the world. You just need to be you, simple, present, faithful. You are the light that shows up in the park bench conversation, the light in the email that says, "I'm thinking of you," the light that stays late to help, that smiles at the cashier, that prays silently in a crowded room. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." Not you might be, not you will be someday, you already are. So let your light shine. Let it be gentle, let it be strong, let it be seen or unseen, but never used. And remember this, on the days you feel like you failed, when your prayers feel empty, when you wonder if any of this matters, look to the hill. The city is still there, and it's still shining. Thank you for listening. If this message touched your heart, please consider sharing it. Not for the views, not for the algorithms, but because there's someone out there, maybe a friend, maybe a stranger, who needs to be reminded that their light still matters. Leave a comment. Tell us where you're listening from. Tell us who lit your flame or who you're holding a light for. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, because here we keep the flames burning together. Until next time, be gentle with yourself, be bold with your love, be faithful in your flame. And always remember, you are the light of the world, and the city on the hill, it's still shining. Good night, and God bless you.